E fala guys, beleza? Aqui quem fala é o Player. E vocês podem ter percebido uma melhora ou uma piora no áudio. É porque agora estou testando gravando com o meu celular. E vamos ver no que dá, né? Hoje a gente vai jogar um jogo bem da hora, né? Chamado Stanley imparável. E eu ouvi dizer que tem que usar fone nesse jogo, senão você não tem uma imersão muito grande. Ou seja, vou lá pegar meu fone e já volto.
Забуду и на любимая моё, твоё имена и на любимая моё.
Vou ver um teste pra ver se tá bom, né? Tá ótimo. Agora esperar fechar o Opera, né? Porque o Opera demora um pouquinho só pra abrir, sabe? Já deu crash? Meu computador tá muito ruim então hoje. Então, não, aqui é do meu PC que eu vou comprar depois, guys. Vai vir novidades até o fim do ano, tá? Vou comprar um PC até o fim do ano, talvez. Talvez eu compre um PC até o fim do ano. Não que eu já não tenha, né? Mas rodar jogo naquele PC ali, eu acho que é dificuldade level 1000. Mas voltando para o vídeo, esqueci o que eu ia falar. Vamos jogar Stanley imparável. Eu não sei se esse jogo precisa bastante de audição, gráfico. Acho que se precisar de gráfico já era. Meu notebook não entrega nem 1% de gráfico bom. Ainda mais que tá gravando, né? Vamos sair da Epic, né?
Забуду и на любимая моё, твоё имена и на любимая моё.
Voltei, guys, consegui abrir o jogo finalmente. Ele já está aberto aqui embaixo, como vocês podem ver, junto com essa área de trabalho linda, maravilhosa. Tive que reduzir a beleza do meu Windows, né, para rodar o jogo, senão não ia rodar. E reiniciei meu computador porque eu não estava abrindo de jeito nenhum. Espera entrar no jogo de novo, né? Se tiver português... Nossa, GG. Meu computador, ele é muito bom, como vocês podem ver. Ok? Crashou o jogo ou não? Não, foi. Vamos ver como é que vai rodar este jogo no meu computador. Ai, desbloquear uma conquista. Primeira vez que eu vejo um sistema de conquista na Epic. Iniciar jogo. Agora esperar o loading, que demora mais 25 anos.
Забуду и на любимая моё, твоё имена и на любимая моё.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Tá.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on the keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push.
Qualidade do meu PC, ó. O jogo
This
deve
is
estar
what
no
employee
mínimo
427
e tá
did
travando
every
tudo.
day, every month, of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow.
Pela
No
história
one
deu
showed
pra
up to
entender
give
que
him
o Stanley
instructions,
é um
call a
trabalhador
meeting, or even say
e
hi.
aconteceu
Never in all
alguma
his
coisa na
years at the
empresa que ele
company had
trabalha
this happened.
e...
This complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong.
Vamos ver como é que é a
Shocked,
gameplay.
frozen solid,
Os gráficos
Stanley
não
found
estão
himself unable to
bons
move for
pra
the
mim.
longest time.
Pra vocês
But as he
podem
came to his wits and regained his
vamos
senses,
considerar que os
he got
gráficos
up
estão
from his desk
medianos.
and stepped
Vai.
out of his office.
É porque também às vezes meu PC que tá fazendo isso, tá? Oi, bom dia, Stanley. Dá pra andar? Nossa, dá pra andar, guys.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Dá pra abrir as portas. Tá, aqui as escadas pelo jeito.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Queria ter um PC bom pra rodar esse jogo e não ficar olhando pro teto. Eita, olha como é que é a sala do chefe dele. Ah, é banheiro ali. Ah, aqui deve ser a sala dele. Como é que abre? Ah, é aqui.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number. 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Nunca vi uma pessoa burra desse jeito, cara.
Acho que não tem nada. Ou é nessa mesa?
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Ele apareceu.
2845. But it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself. And Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
Que isso? Olha, escorregou o mouse aqui. Eu ainda não joguei esse jogo, velho. Primeira vez. Nossa, tá me surpreendendo esse jogo. Peguei ele de graça, velho, na Epic Games Store. Acho que pouca gente faz gameplay desse jogo no YouTube. Acho que até ninguém faz. Eu sou o primeiro. Oh, que sono da porra, né? Tem que ser family friend agora, né?
Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Parece um jogo de terror isso, né? Não tem uma lanterna não, velho.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
É, aqui mesmo. Eita, preula, olha aí.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control
Qual era o
all
número
this
do
time?
Stanley?
Was this the only
Era
reason he was happy with his boring
477.
job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Não, 470 e pouco.
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content, walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Tem que achar o 1, depois o 2, o 3. Ou é aquela senha? Nossa, se for aquela senha eu esqueci. 8, 2, 5, 4, alguma coisa assim, eu acho. Aqui é o 4. Se for sequência, então eu tenho que começar pelo 8. Não. 1, 2. Tem que achar o 3 agora. Pode ser lá o 3.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for. Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going. What all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free.
Não dá pra pôr.
Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock, why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees.
Mas eu não sei o que é pra
Oh,
fazer,
dear me,
não
what's the
adianta
matter,
tempo.
Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now?
Ah, devia ter
Or did you
desligado,
just
velho. Eu
assume
devia
when
ser
you saw that
trollar, não
timer
devia
that
trollar o
something in
cara.
this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is?
Deu merda.
Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along.
Ah, vou
It's
ter
just
que
seconds
reiniciar o
ticking
save,
away to your
guys.
death. You're only still playing instead of watching a
Fiz
cutscene
merda.
because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless.
Se eu
To
não
see
tiver que
you
reiniciar o
made
save, vou ter que fazer alguma coisa, velho.
This is not a challenge.
Vou começar o jogo. Fiz merda, fazer o quê? Nossa, olha a merda que eu fiz, velho. Ou só faltava ter que ser aquilo mesmo, velho. Eu não vou pegar tutorial no YouTube. Então vocês já aprenderam uma coisa assim nesse vídeo. Não seja em troll com o jogo. Que o jogo vai te dar aquela trollada depois.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Nossa, pior que aqui é muito lagado.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Mesmo assim não havia ninguém.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
O escritório é horrível, velho. Olha essa parede.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. Two, 845.
fui, botei certo.
Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself, and Stanley got the hell along with the story.
Não dá pra
Well,
cair.
whoop-de-doo.
Ah, nem aqui, velho. Essa porta fechar em cima de mim. Ah, tá muito rápido. Ai, bora, guys. De novo. Nesta aventura. De desligar uma máquina e acabar o jogo. Então não dá pra ser zoeiro nesse jogo.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
A gente liga aqui. Vamos tentar procurar o do Stanley.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Daí o Stanley descobre que aqui é tipo uma NASA da vida.
Now the monitors jumped to life. Their true
Stanley é
nature revealed.
437
Each bore
ali,
the
ó.
number of an employee in the building. Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals
Nossa,
reduced to images on a
Não, do
screen.
Stanley é
And
ali.
Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
O Stanley é ali, ó. É que depois mostra os números, se eu não me engano. (476) do Stanley.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Nossa, foi como tava com tosse.
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible?
É bem difícil.
Had he
porque eu
truly
vejo
spent
em
his
lugar
entire
na minha
life
cidade tem
utterly
caso, e
blind
já
to
tá
the
em-
world?
já sendo resolvido esse caso.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking,
Eu vou
eating,
desligar.
working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place.
desligar.
And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life.
Acho que vai
For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Cadê o jogo? Ei, o que vai acontecer? Eu desliguei.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do.
Nossa, acho que eu terminei o jogo.
Whatever life
Eu acho que era pra
holds,
clicar em on
it will be his.
e tentar resolver o
That
enigma.
was all he needed to know.
Ah, quando eu sou cabeça de
It was
Selbit, né,
perhaps
velho?
the only
Selbit
thing
é bem
worth
mais
knowing.
inteligente que eu.
Stanley stepped through the open door.
Daí vai, a porta abre mais do que devia.
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin,
Oh,
a
eu quero ver o
feeling of
prédio.
liberation, the immense
é
possibility
possível,
of the
posso.
new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now,
Gráfico de
that
2001,
things were meant
certo.
to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Cadê o jogo? Cadê o jogo? Ah, era pra clicar em on mesmo.
Você parece burro! Ei, mas é burro! Nunca vi uma pessoa burra desse jeito, cara!
Ah, nem ferrando. Deixa eu ver quanto tempo de vídeo, lógico que eu vou cortar. Dá mais 5 minutinhos de vídeo pra gente já começar a clicar no on lá, né? Porque o problema é o que eu vou fazer se eu clicar no on. Eu zerei o jogo. Ah, o jogo zerou.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a
Ah,
memo.
velho, nem ferrando. Eu não vou conseguir resolver aquilo. Eu vou ter que ver um tutorial no YouTube
When
antes de fazer,
Stanley
velho.
came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Mas esse jogo é muito da hora. Recomendo muito vocês jogarem.
Yet there was not a single person here either.
Pra quem gosta
Feeling
de
a wave
puzzle.
of disbelief,
Eu não
Stanley
gosto mais.
decided to go up to his boss's office.
Existe pra
Coming
baixo.
to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Eu descobri uma
But
coisa.
Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing a boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy,
Nossa, só
why
tô
had he
desbloqueando mais
taken
coisa
that
no
risk?
jogo.
All because he believed
Hey.
everyone had vanished. His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe
Você saiu
I
de ter
am
carro
crazy.
de novo,
All of my
tô no ciclo
co-workers blinking
infinito.
mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to
¿Qué?
make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why
No,
did
quero
doors
subir.
close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply
Não
repeating?
tem mais.
No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest
Nossa,
question of them
como
all
que vocês bloquearam
entered
se não pode
Stanley's
pular?
head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd, and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their
Vamos zerar
dreams,
duas
the
vezes
truth
num
was that,
vídeo.
of course,
Mas
this
depois a
was
gente vai
not a
fazer
dream.
o...
How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself,
Deixa eu fazer o terceiro
believing
final.
that if he's asleep,
O
he
quarto
doesn't
será, a
have to
gente
take
vai fazer todos os
responsibility for
finais.
himself? Stanley is as awake
Vou
right
tentar.
now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream.
Quando eu tô com fone, geralmente eu falo
So he
assim
closed
e
his
na
eyes
edição
gently,
tentou, né?
and he invited himself to wake up.
Nossa.
He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay. Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Era.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Então, vamos ver como vai ser o próximo final no próximo vídeo. Este vídeo só foi pra ver como é que é meio a gameplay do jogo, tá? Achei o jogo ótimo. Aproveita que ele tá de graça, né? Porque Games Store, vai lá, tá de graça. Se um dia que você for não tiver de graça, compre apoiando iTz-Player, tá? Vai me ajudar bastante. Se você tá no Fortnite também e quiser comprar alguma coisa na loja de itens, me apoia também, mesmo código iTz-Player, tá na descrição.
A soft wind blew outside and perhaps
Eu só vou
rain
me caminhar até
spread,
lá,
and if it did,
o
it stopped
escritório do
shortly
cara,
after.
e eu
Stanley
já
hoped
fecho o
that he would
vídeo,
one day
pra gente
see
já ficar um
weather.
pouquinho adiantado.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ai, as portas fecham, olha isso. Quando eu venho aqui, ó, vou passar essa porta aqui, ó.
Yet there was not
Fechou.
a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief,
É tudo
Stanley decided
sonho,
to go up to
velho.
his boss's office,
É
hoping he
sonho
might
bem
find an
realista,
answer
hein,
there.
cara. Tu tá saindo bem.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Não dá pra abrir. Esse praticamente é o final normal. O que eu tô fazendo agora. De lá pra baixo,
The
clicar em
moment he
on.
entered his manager's office, Stanley froze in his tracks. Not a living soul anywhere. Could he really be all alone? This was too much for Stanley
Nossa,
to
eu não
take.
tinha
Too
visto
much
isso.
for any man to take. He fell to his knees, bursting into half moans, half sobs, the guttural retching of life from a man denied any
Quando
hope,
você tá
any
aqui,
reason to keep going.
não parece
Here on
isso
the
aí.
floor, he lay prone, paralyzed by fear for nearly a full hour. But when at last he began to move about and survey the situation, he found a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could it mean? Was it a sign of hope for Stanley's future? Alas, it was not. For although this keypad guarded the terrible secret of Stanley's past, it had been assigned a 4-digit code so devious and so random that no man could ever hope to guess it. 2-8. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
Copyright! Nossa, se tiver copyright eu vou ficar tão puto, velho.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Mano, se tiver copyright eu vou ficar muito puto. Tem que mover o trecho do vídeo daí. Trecho não, é o áudio. O bom é que dá pra mim separar o áudio do celular do computador. Daí eu posso deixar só o meu áudio do computador, não. Fica melhor. Daí. Eu vou deixar. Eu só vou ir até
Stanley
ali.
walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Vou até ali ligar as coisas. Daí eu faço todo o percurso.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold?
Daí eu
Stanley
finalizo
thought to
a
himself.
gameplay e o vídeo.
Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them,
Mudou do Stanley,
eternally
agora é ali.
monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Tem uma tela ali que tá com erro. Nossa! Peraí que eu posso descobrir alguma coisa. Eu vou ver a tela do Stanley. 489.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time?
What?
Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for
o resto vai
all.
ficar pro próximo vídeo. Vou aproveitar e vou pesquisar como que passa dessa parte aqui, que né, eu não vou saber passar. Tá? Ó, vou estar nesse lugar. No próximo vídeo estarei no mesmo lugar. Vou só descobrir se tem algum easter egg aqui. Olha lá, risco elétrico. A gente não tem nada. Então, gente, vamos voltar pro menu. E olha ali que da hora. É um espelho do espelho do espelho. Isso pode ter alguma relação com o jogo. O jogo é um espelho do 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 espelho. o E é daorinha que faz um barulho de teclado mecânico. Mas não é. Então, vou ficando... Pera aí, vamos dar uma saída da hora aqui, ó. Então, vamos pensar aqui, ó, rapidão. 3 segundos. Então o vídeo vai ficando por aqui. Falou, galera. Fui.